Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Putters, and this is the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast Sunday Stroll Edition. I'm going to be, we got a good show. We're going to recap last week, talk a little bit about injuries and some big news that just hit. Well, it didn't just hit, but came out after some games there on Sunday. We had news breaking out, and there's probably going to be more to come in the short notice. So stay tuned. And if you like what you hear, hit the like, hit the subscribe, share with your friends, share with everybody, man. We want to hear your feedback. If you got any questions you want to send us on. So, without further ado, this is the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. All right, like I said, I'm Andrew Putters. I'm here with my buddy Joe Nicely from Roto Baller. And this is the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast Sunday Stroll Edition, where we talk NFL because that's what you want to hear. We're getting a ton of feedback that people love the NFL, so that's where we're at. As always, this show is brought to you by Thrive Fantasy. Come prop up with Thrive Fantasy this season. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports app for player props. They have eliminated the need to do countless hours of research because they only ask you about the top-tier athletes in the respective sport. For NFL, choose 10 out of the top 20 player prop options to build your lineup. Each player prop has a fantasy point associated with the over and under based on the likelihood of occur. The more the points selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win your share of the prize pool. Thrive has awarded $1.4 million since launching the app in 2018 and has a weekly guarantee NFL prize pool of $50,000. Use the promo code THETURN when signing up and get an instant bonus of 100% match up to $50. Download the Thrive Fantasy app at the App Store, Play Store by visiting their website, www.thrivefantasy.com, and sign up and prop up today. So, week 4 in the books. Before we talk about our reactions, let me go ahead and give it a rundown. Denver outlasts New York Jets 37-28. Cincinnati, same with Jacksonville, 33-25. The Browns outscored the Dallas Cowboys 49-38. New Orleans comes back against Detroit 35-29. Seattle holds off the Dolphins 31-23. Tampa Bay over the Chargers in a great game 38-31. Ravens hold off the Washington football team 31-17. Carolina an upset against Arizona. Maybe Arizona isn't all it's cracked up to be 31-21. Minnesota beats the horrible Houston Texas 31-23. The Giants get beat by the Rams in a not fun to watch 17-9 showing. Same thing at Indianapolis beating the Bears 19-11. Finally, somebody put the Bears in their place. Buffalo beats the Raiders 30-23 in a thriller. The Eagles find a way to win 25-20 over the 49ers. Kansas City dominates New England Patriots on the COVID scare game 26-10. And the Falcons are the Falcons. They lose 30-16 against the Green Bay Packers on the Aaron Rodgers revenge tour. So, reactions from week 5 before we get in the news on that said that came out this weekend. What's your reactions, Joe, on week 4 first? Got any reactions that stand out?
Injuries, man. We saw Austin Eckler go down, which means a lot to me because he's on my season-long team along with Christian McCaffrey. But it seems like injuries are really kind of marring up this year, and I'm not sure if that's due to not as much training camp because of the COVID. But it seems like there's tons of significant injuries this year. We saw Devontae Adams miss Monday Night Football. Cam Newton was on the COVID list. We've had a couple COVID scares with the Titans and Steelers, and then the Patriots and Chiefs. So that's something we're going to have to juggle going forward in all of our fantasy leagues and in DFS. As far as strictly football, the Dallas Cowboys, man. You want to be targeting them every single week for the foreseeable future. Not only them, but whoever's playing against them. Buddy and I were talking last week that it could be an Odell Beckham week, and it certainly was, man. So I feel like any of these deep threats, we saw DK Metcalf have a big game, Calvin Ridley. Pretty much any quality receivers had a good game against the Cowboys, and their offense just continues to be forced to be aggressive and try to keep up. And Dak Prescott and these receivers are going to just roll up huge numbers as long as this defense is playing this way. So that's kind of my big takeaway. That was the thing that jumped out the most to me is kind of the significant injuries that we're seeing. And the Cowboys, man, are a team that we just want to constantly be targeting. I mean, we know there's some other ones out there. The Seattle Seahawks kind of underperformed against Miami, but I think Russell Wilson's going to continue to have a huge year. And I think we can target offenses against the Seahawks as well, similar to Dallas. That's something to look at. The Saints with Michael Thomas out. Alvin Kamara's ownership was through the roof last week, but it was pretty well deserved. The spot doesn't get much better. So he kind of underwhelmed a little bit. I think he had 20 DK points right there at 20. Dalvin Cook's looking like Dalvin Cook again. And I think we can target this Houston Texans team on the ground. They're proving to be horrible at stopping the run as well as everything else. But maybe that's your news you want to get to.
News I was going to get to is we have our first coaching vacancy of the year.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien out as Houston's head coach. An absolute horrible head coach. Terrible play caller. Terrible game.
Maybe a worse GM. Maybe he might be a worse GM than a coach.
He's just horrible. I mean, just horrible.
He should have gotten fired as soon as he floated the idea of trading DeAndre Hopkins. That should have been the red flag for whoever's making that decision. I know he's the GM, I guess the owner or ownership group. Well, whenever he knocks on your door and says, "Hey, we're thinking about trading DeAndre Hopkins," that's when you might want to call a board meeting there, guys, and send him on his way. It's a little bit too late. He's already blew up your team.
Well, I mean, to start off with, it doesn't even look like they have a game plan when they play. I don't know.
Man, they have no game plan. They have no quality players outside of Deshaun Watson. They have no draft picks. The Miami Dolphins have their first and second next year. I don't remember. I mean, we've seen worse teams. I mean, this is a playoff team. So, I mean, they were obviously talented. And that almost makes it worse because we've seen, horrible organizations have horrible stretches. We've seen a lot of coaching turnover with some of these organizations, but it's almost worse that Houston has wasted this talent, and Bill O'Brien has exploded this team as well as their future. I really feel for Deshaun Watson. You have to wonder what this is going to mean for his career, really. He just signed a long-term deal with Houston. So, yeah, man, it's I guess a good thing for the long run if you're a Houston Texans fan. But, man, they're in rough shape for the foreseeable future because of some of his decision-making.
Yeah, so that and the defense is getting old too. So I mean that was their silver lining. They always created turnovers. They held teams could not throw on them on third down at all because the pass rush was just horrendous. They're terrible. I'm not sure that they can beat the Bears, and the Bears are awful. But like you said, and the injuries is another thing we can touch on. I've got a list of them here, and I want to do this when we started the show, but I'm in Lincoln Hawk State, just grind time in the NFL because you got to go out and find these players that you don't know who they are, and somehow they erupt. And luckily, I got a little snip in our little league last week. I got a little win that possibly Damian Harris was coming off the IR in New England, snagged him up when nobody was looking. Might have found a diamond in the rough here in the future at New England in our league. I don't know. I hope I did because I need to run back.
Hey man, I need one too, but I can tell you I'm pulling for you, but I can tell you I've been down that New England running back road, and
It ain't no good.
it's a bumpy one, baby.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
bumpy one. It's good. It's good one week and then not so great the next. But I hear you, man. It's just it's a battle this year, like I've never seen before. It is just an absolute struggle, especially at the running back position. Well, these guys are going down left and right, and there's no one out there that you feel comfortable even picking up to try to replace them with.
Yeah.
So it's just brutal, man.
I mean, I think another thing too that makes it hard is these teams are using three running backs a lot. You know, especially when you're shaped, the Chargers, they use three running backs when they're healthy. So
Yeah, we've seen the league going in that direction. I mean, it's really thrown a wrench in the works for fantasy players the last few years. We've seen this running back by committee. Organizations not wanting to pay these stud running backs, and then when they do pay them, they want to kind of protect them a little bit. So there are very few what we'd call bell cow running backs left in the NFL at this moment. You know, a couple come to mind: Christian McCaffrey, who's hurt. Ezekiel Elliott for the Cowboys, but their passing offense has been so potent and they've been trailing in so many games that it's kind of hurting his numbers. But he is a guy that you can count on for volume. Dalvin Cook comes to mind. Alvin Kamara, although he's primarily a pass catcher out of the backfield, but he's a stud, putting up big time numbers. But outside of that, maybe there's somebody I'm missing that you can think of, but man, it's tough at running back this year.
absolutely. So injuries, not making it easier. The center for the Dallas Cowboys, Joe Looney, went down with the MCL sprain. Out going to be out for a few weeks. But I mean, you got to think MCL sprains is a lateral motion injury. So I imagine when he gets back, it ain't going to be good. Tight end number 1 for Green Bay out for the year, torn ACL. Josiah Dugara. Bucks are an interesting thing. We talked about earlier. Fournette, game time decision this week. Howard, torn Achilles, out for the year. Didn't let Godwin, Evans, Scott Miller, Justin Watson practice today, and you kind of mentioned to me earlier that could have been a safety precaution. We don't know how serious those guys. They're probably just banged up a little bit, if I'm guessing. So the question is Gronk going to finally get some love? I mean, I cannot figure this out. Bruce Arians dramatically the other day was asked about Gronk's offensive production. He's like, he's a tight end. We have receivers that catch balls. And I'm sitting here thinking this is the best tight end that's ever played the game. We're not throwing it to him, but whatever. That could be an ego thing. Khalil Mack left practice today with a knee injury. Game time decision, who knows? Julio Jones from Atlanta re-injured his ongoing life-threatening hamstring injury that happens every year. Mike Thomas, we still don't know what's going on with him. Of course, Cam Newton, COVID-19, out at least one more week. Austin Eckler, hamstring as well, and a lot of pain on the sidelines. They're saying 4 to 6 weeks, but
oh yeah,
hamstrings, we don't know. I mean, they can heal in 2 weeks, or they can never heal right ever again. Another big blow, Chubb down for the Browns, knee injury. He's an unknown factor.
Kareem Hunt owners are feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, and I can't stand it that Cupcakes got him in our league.
Oh no,
good things
he runs so good, man.
Good things happen to that prick so much. It's just ridiculous. So, I got a little bad luck this weekend in fantasy. I was dominating all day against our boy Brian Ray. Not saying that I deserved to win or anything, but I was in the lead all day, let's just say. And the last drive, Chicago on a cleanup drive, throw the ball to his receiver every single play, and the guy goes from 3.2 fantasy points to 17 fantasy points in a matter of minutes on
in a single drive.
One single drive. Threw it to him every play for the last whole series, which was enough for him to beat me by 14 points. That's how many he had on the last drive. Is what it is. He also had Minshew, who scored a no-need touchdown at the buzzer to score. So ran into a little bad luck. I mean, I know I don't. I'm obviously with Barkley going down on my team. Seems like I get the best every week of somebody. That's okay. It's a long season. A lot of people getting injured. Things are changing every week. Like you said, with your injuries, you know, you're tied for the lead in our league, but there's a possibility you could be last place at the end of the year with your
Yeah.
injury situation. So
yeah, I'm somehow 3-1. Won this week. Very fortunate to beat Travis somehow. I don't know how. I think my running backs combined for like 3 points, literally. So yeah, man, I'm 3-1, but I'm like the Bears 3. I'm the our league version of the Bears. I'm 3-1, but everybody knows I'm terrible. So I don't know what's going to happen, man. But yeah, it's just brutal out there. These guys are going down left and right, and it's really making us scramble this year, man. Had to work for it more than ever so far. So it's tough. It's tough. I've kind of been turning my focus slowly but surely towards DFS versus season long, just because of all the injuries. But we're even seeing it affect DFS, man. These guys are going down mid game, and it's killing lineups left and right.
you're right. So now we got the injuries out of the way. We've already hit on Bill O'Brien out. The real question is there should be 2 more coaches following suit very soon. How does Dan Quinn have a job right now in Atlanta? They have
I don't know. I don't know, man. Unless they just decided they're going to ride this season out and then make a change at the end of the year. That's my only explanation. I don't really know how he still has a job, to be honest. He's been a great coach for the organization. That might have something to do with it. Maybe they're just going to let him finish out the year. But man, there's so much wasted talent in Atlanta that it's pretty gross. You know, they've had all this offensive firepower for years, and have a Super Bowl trip to show for it, but that's about it. And I think it's pretty safe to say the Dan Quinn era is wrapping up in Atlanta.
Yes, I would agree 1,000%. So another coach that should be following suit soon. I'm gonna throw some stats out here that's gonna just make your just mind explode. Matt Patricia in Detroit. Since he's been there, they're 10, 26, and 1. Okay. 10, 26, and 1. So they've won 10 games, Joe, out of 37. Or 10, 25, and 1, misadded there. So out of 36 games, they've won 10. Of the 25 games they've lost in the one game that they tied, they've had the lead after the first quarter in 18 of those games, Joe. 18 of those games. They had a 14-0 lead against the Saints. We've said it week in, week out. They've had a really good team on paper for a few years. Now, obviously, Stafford going down last year, but Patricia's got to be out.
Yeah.
Week 8. He's got to be out by week 8.
Yeah, I agree. He should be gone. The Lions are a pretty talented team, like we've talked about, man. They can't seem to put 4 quarters together. But yeah, I think Patricia is definitely not the answer up there. Another coach that probably won't make it through the year is Adam Gase in New York. I mean, unless it's just an organizational decision, they'll just let him coach the year out and then start fresh at the end of the year. But you have to figure he's gone too, man. They're definitely struggling. So yeah, man, there's probably 5, 6 coaches around the league that either might not make it through the year or will be gone at the end of the year.
Yeah. And back on the Lions real quick, Matt Patricia is doing himself 0 favors in the press conference. He coaches like – this is what I've been told. He coaches like Belichick, personality-wise. He press conferences like Belichick. He might get a little bit more personal, but not much. That's all well and good when you go 12-4 every year.
Yeah. When you win Super Bowls, you can kind of be that way. But when you're struggling to win games as the Lions head coach, it might help to be a little more savvy with the media.
Yeah. I heard, I can't remember, it's TJ Lane maybe or TJ Lamb. He was a all-pro guard, I think, for him in his first year. He did an interview on McAfee and was saying that, like in week 12, he had him and another Pro Bowl offensive line offensive linemen working on their fundamentals in week 12. And like, he's like 90% of our practice was fundamentals and 10% was game plan. Like, we get to like Friday and not even know what the game plan was on the team we were playing. And it's like, what's going on here, man? And just,
Right.
I think it's more do it my way, no matter what kind of coaching. And I think it's pretty well documented that you got to have a little bit of personality with these players.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've always thought, when teams have a habit of coming out firing, coming out looking really good at the start of games, but continually losing games, a lot of that's on the coaching, man. That's failing to make adjustments. That's failing the game plan, failing to know your opponent. They're coming out playing well early and letting a lot of these games slip away. And I think a lot of that goes back to the coach and the coaching staff. So, yeah, man, he's been a bust up there. Another team that's been really talented offensively for several years and has kind of squandered it. So I look for him to be gone sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's right. So week 5 coming up. I'm going to hit on a couple of games I'm interested in watching. Buffalo at Tennessee.
Yeah.
We don't know what the Tennessee roster is going to look like yet because of the COVID, all the positive tests. However, they are slated to play at 1 o'clock. And another game that to me is going to be intriguing is we're going to find out kind of where the Colts and the Browns are. They're both 3-1. And really the Colts probably should be 4-0, but Browns are 3-1. I really don't think either team is for real. However, you got to think, to me, it's just going to be an interesting game. See what those coaching staffs do. I want to say that Las Vegas and Kansas City could be a good game with the coaching staffs matched up, but I don't know. Any game you're interested in watching? Definitely Buffalo, Tennessee. I'm all in on that game.
Yeah, Buffalo, Tennessee, just from a fan and an interesting football game standpoint. From a fantasy standpoint, definitely targeting Carolina, Atlanta. You can look at both sides of that matchup. I think there's going to be some offensive fireworks in that one. And then Dallas and New York. Like I said, we want to continue to target these Cowboys. The Giants haven't shown much in any sense this year. So it's hard to be too excited about that side of the ball, although I would look at Darius Slayton because fast receivers that run deep routes have been torching Dallas. So I look at Darius Slayton and that as a good boomer bust option. But those two stick out. Minnesota, Seattle, Sunday night, so it's not on the main DraftKings slate, but that should be a good one for fantasy purposes also. But yeah, man, those are the ones that really stick out. And like you said, the Colts and Browns, they'll be a little proven to be done there with 2 3-1 teams. I think you'll see the Colts defense kind of grab a hold of that one, especially with Chubb out. I think Hunt's a really good complementary back. I don't know that he's going to be a great 3-down back, and I don't even know that they're going to use him in that role. I think you saw Dearness Johnson come in there Sunday and get quite a bit of work, and we might continue to see that as they might want to keep Hunt in kind of the same role that he's been playing. I think we'll see a bump in volume, but I don't think he's automatically going to turn into an every down back, especially facing a tough Indianapolis defense that's legit. So, yeah, that should be a good matchup as well.
Yeah, you never know when Hunt's going to come in and drop kick the opposition. So anyway, my name is Andrew Putters. This is Joe Nicely, and you've listened to the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast, Sunday Stroll Edition. Talk to you next week, folks.
Go!